Good morning. Welcome to Savannah Community Headlines Live. It's July 20th, 2020. And we created this live space at the beginning of the pandemic as a way to have a place that we can continue to gather and talk. So think of this as a virtual water cooler until this pandemic is over. So today we're sitting around the virtual water cooler with the publisher of the Savannah Business Report, Lou Phelps. Business Journal. Yeah, you dropped the report for a long time ago.
Yeah, when I bought the Savannah Business Journal. Yes, ma'am.
It's been a while. It's been a
Long while.
We've got Dr. Deidre Grimm with the REACH team of Project Hope. Good morning, Deidre.
Good morning.
And we have Carmel Hearn and Catalina Garcia Quick on the visibility team of Carriage Trade PR. So good morning. It's July 20th.
Good morning.
And where were you guys on this day 51 years ago?
You want us to tell our age, right?
I was probably taking a nap. I was 3 months old. I was probably taking a nap.
Yeah, we landed on the moon, 51 years ago. I actually got this from Jeff T-Bone Taylor from his Facebook page this morning. I went, I know right where I was. My mom made me watch it. She's like, this is history.
Oh, yeah.
Watch it. I was like,
right.
Yeah.
8 years old.
My brother was a space geek, and we were all over this thing. Thank goodness.
Well, an interesting fact about myself, I wasn't born, but Ronald McNair, who was on the Challenger that died, that was actually my cousin. So, yeah.
Now that I remember exactly where I was and exactly what I was doing when that happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was in classes in high school, and it came over the announcement. We all went into the library and watched.
You're talking about the Challenger versus the moonwalk.
Right.
When the Challenger, I was in my newsroom in Braintree, Massachusetts with my staff, and we were watching it, and there was the puff of smoke and the blow up, and everyone's like, what's going on? What's going on? And I'm going, folks, this thing just blew up. They're dead. And my news people are like, no. I'm going, guys, it just blew up. You're in space. They're gone. And everybody was just like in shock, when the Challenger went. Such a tragedy.
Well, SpaceX.
The moonwalk, I was at upstate New York at a summer camp between college years, being a counselor with spoiled little brats out of New York City who were very wealthy children.
My mother had just moved to the United States. My mother had been in California. She moved here from Europe, from England in the 60s, and she had just moved to the United States just a short time before, and I remember her saying that in Europe it was presented, the space program was presented one way, but then when they and then they moved to Canada, and then coming to United States, she says she just remembers being amazed at the people going out into the street. They were in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the people were coming out into the streets, and horns blaring, and people celebrating, and all that kind of stuff. And it was something she had never really even seen before. So,
Good morning, Paula. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning. Happy Healthy Monday to you too.
Gosh, I just love this platform. It's called StreamYard, and it is.
Yeah, I just wrote that down. I haven't used StreamYard before.
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm actually streaming live on my personal Facebook page, Carriage Trades page, Healthy Savannahs, YouTube. I mean, I'm streaming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different locations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, really cool. Yeah.
Oh, it's really cool. And for the nonprofits out there, there's a free version, and you can stream on 2 different locations at a time. You just don't get the logo like in the upper right-hand corner, but everything else is the same. It's really fantastic, and the interaction is just a really cool platform too.
Good.
So
I was watching the mayor on Friday night doing his Friday Night Live, and he was trying to bring on the superintendent, and he was trying to bring on Pastor Andre Osborne, and he was really struggling. And I was texting in the back or chatting in the back. I'm like, StreamYard, we got to shut the StreamYard.
No, I know. Well, when I was
email him later and tell him all about StreamYard.
I know it takes a village there. They let us Savannah Business Journal. We were the only ones we got to go in and film van trying to run city council virtually. And, you know, it's like you got 3 technicians and the whole thing. Bless their hearts. I mean, it was really, it took a village to get that sucker on live. So they're still learning.
We're doing it. We're absolutely doing it.
I know.
So, Deidre, tell us what's going on with Reach.
Well, a lot is going on with Reach, although COVID-19 has set in and we can't tell a pandemic when to stop. We are still moving. So what we're doing, well, just Friday, and I should have posted some pictures on Facebook, we had our monthly Fresh Express, and where we gave away over 4 pallets, so that equates to around 320 boxes of produce and over almost 400, almost 500 beverages, meal supplemental beverages to those who are food insecure in the community. And so we were out there engaging, just having a good time. It was a whole family meeting with me. I brought everyone with me, even the 2-year-old supervisor, and she was out there giving away her produce while watching her program on her phone. And we're just continuing to move forward. We're looking forward to doing some outreach with the community around Tide to Town and making sure that we are actively listening and not making decisions without the input of our primary stakeholder, who are the residents. And we're also looking, we have Hero Help Me, where we have a database where it's able to help those access resources within the community. But with myself, I think I have a lot going on, but it's a great problem to have. We're also working with Georgia Southern with the Photo Voice project to explain and communicate the barriers that African American mothers are having when needing to breastfeed in public. And we also have the Corner Store initiative, where we work with 4 local corner stores or sometimes gas stations to provide fresh produce within the community to help with the low and no access. And we are partnered with Forsyth Farmers Market, and they have increased their stops, I think from 8 to 15 now, and they've seen a 400% increase in SNAP customers, and benefits being used on the truck. So just some great things going on. I'm so happy that we are taking our health in our hands, and we were talking about the mask ordinance and some of the stuff that's going on community-wide, and we're just here to support and uplift those efforts, because we know that one of the main barriers to access to health, that one of the barriers to health equity is being knowledgeable and taking those initiatives for yourself.
Absolutely. So if you could give a recap of what the Reach, what it stands for, how it got started, and personally, how did you get involved?
Now that's so funny. So REACH stands for Racial and Ethnic Approaches to Community Health. It's a CDC grant that we were awarded, and Paula and Lizanne did some grilling on us through the application process, but it was so much worth it. My background is actually initially in urban planning, public policy, and design. And so I've always worked with homeless populations and low wealth populations. So it was easy to translate over to low and no access to healthy foods. And so they said, okay, well, we're just going to throw you in there, and we're going to give you some training, and we're going to give you some linkages in the community, and you're going to do this on your own. And so I appreciate the opportunity, because I'm not, Paul is probably one of those supervisors that allows you to manage yourself until you do something crazy. And so I'm so grateful for the opportunity that she has trusted us with, and continues to trust us with, and especially with our outreach in the community, because that's what it's all about, hearing what the community needs, what they want, and what their desires are. Because as a planner, I believe that you plan for design either way, whether it's to uplift or decrease. And so I think that I know that this is, we're on the right track.
I love how Reach is measuring all the benchmarks. I mean, we're not just saying get healthy. It's like, okay, we started here, and now we've accomplished this. You guys are moving the needle, and it's a the hard needle to move, because the old habits of poor health is back a long way.
It's entrenched. Yeah, it's entrenched. Yeah.
You know, another thing that I think is really significant to mention, and I hope Deidre can speak to this as well. You know, there have been other programs in the past, and what is enabling Reach to work, as opposed to, you know, other, you know, people can say, well, you know, this has been tried before, but this hasn't been tried before. And the other question I want you to address is, why should it matter to everyone?
So other programs probably have done some move the needle a little bit further, but like Marjorie says, we are capturing every benchmark. We are making sure that we're making sound decisions with the input from our primary stakeholder. We are making sure that we have community partners, because we can't do this by ourselves. We have over 60, maybe even almost 100 partners that we get feedback from, and you all have helped us with our visioning sessions over communication, Marjorie and Karama and Catalina. So it's just making sure that we are listening instead of just doing. And I think in the past, historically, that's what has been happening. We have been doing without listening. And so that's where Reach is different. It's very different in that. And to speak to your second question, Carmel,
well, if our low income community is not healthy, they show up at our emergency room and end up with health outcomes that are more serious than had things been addressed earlier and people had lived healthy. And then, so we have a huge indigent population with no health coverage that shows up at all of our hospitals, and that costs a fortune, and it's just a whole circle of difficulty. But it's on a human level, people don't end up until their health outcome is in really a serious situation, versus having lived healthily, and also versus learning about their health earlier in the process.
Yeah,
the kind of thing you're doing. You know,
I agree with you wholeheartedly, Lou. And I think what everyone should also take away from this is that when the lowest wealth communities are lifted up, everybody else is lifted up. And you put a fine point on that number. We were doing some research on just, it was saying that I believe during COVID-19, at least we were probably at maybe 11% food insecurity, but right now we're at 36%. So, and so it's really sad to say, but it's really showing a lot of the disparities that minority communities have been experienced for years. But unfortunately, I'm happy that this has shown a light on it. Unfortunately, it's been a grim situation, no pun intended, but it had to be, you know, brought to the forefront. And so with strong leadership in the community and organizations such as yourselves and people such as yourselves continue to communicate this message, we will definitely it'll be a different takeaway instead of, you know, just putting a Band-Aid on it. We're going to definitely move forward.
And food insecurity is now touching new communities, not just, you know, low income on the east and west side. I mean, we have
6 months away. Yeah,
we're in a new land, folks. And
my dad used to always say that even your richest person in the world, everybody is 6 months away from experiencing some sort of you know, food insecurity if some sort of catastrophic event happened. You know,
the school's not opening. Remember, with the school's not opening, also the decision that was made last Thursday by the school board.
Right.
We have all these children that are not having breakfast and lunch. And that is like staggering, you know, because of the number of kids that qualified and were having breakfast and lunch at our public schools.
Right.
And so it's not just the daycare issue, which a lot of times people focus on, but now we've got a massive food insecurity with children.
Well, at least the public school system, though, I mean, they are, you know, that's kind of my little circle of work. And, you know, that the number of, we have schools that are like 98% reliant on the free and reduced lunch program, and most students do receive their breakfast and lunch at school. And I will say that I do know that it's not perfect, but the school district, at least, people were complaining the other day, well, how come we need bus drivers if we're not opening the schools? Because those buses are delivering those meals to those areas and at least trying to meet them where they are. And like I said, it might not always be perfect, but there are kids, I know personally kids that have been in our cohort over the last 3 or 4 years that they only get their meals at school. And that's why, the Backpack Buddies programs are so important.
Right.
And, supporting those kids. One of the things Deidre said a little while ago, when she was talking about the health disparities and different things, I watched an interview on Friday with Dr. Fauci, and they were talking about how and why it was put on by the United States Chamber of Commerce. And the interview basically surrounded, it was really about how COVID-19 was affecting businesses and what the economic impact was. And Dr. Fauci brought up a good point, saying, the question was, why is COVID-19 affecting the minority community more so than not? And why are there so much high, the health disparities and the hospitalizations are more in the African-American community, the minority community? And the answer was, and this really is something that impacts Savannah, the answer was because most of the time, for whatever reason, poverty is a big drive in this. Most of the time, a lot of our minority communities, and especially African-American communities, are working in those hospitality industries. So these are the people that are going to work, those service industries where they're going to work and they're serving the public, and they're working in the grocery stores, and they're working in the hotels, and they're working in the restaurants, and they're interacting with people more so. Right. And these are some of the lowest paid people in our industry. And Savannah being such a tourism driven town, the bulk of our workforce is in that hospitality industry, and that is one of the lower paid industries. And so consequently, you have a lot of minorities that are being exposed more often, and they're the lowest paid, the most underinsured, and so forth. And so it's just it's a trickle down kind of. And then people don't seem to understand that when your workers are sick, they're not working, and that actually impacts, the bottom feeds the top instead of the other way around. Literally, the bottom of the wealth scale feeds the top of the wealth scale. And when those folks get sick, then, we're not going to be able to completely reopen. Everybody wants to open, but they're not thinking about the capacity to do so. Right. And when your workers are not healthy, then it just drives, it's a trickle down, and then it starts to snowball, and then, it starts to impact the economy and all sorts of things. And like Deidre could speak to this far better than me, but I mean, it's a real thing. And, it's something, I think that's why, one of the things that Reach does that I applaud and that I love about them is that they really, the data, you can't argue with data, and you can't argue with facts. And you guys meet people where they are. And, I can go on all day about this. I get on a soapbox and we'll go, but I won't. Yeah. I'll turn it.
Lou, I know you've got some really interesting statistics.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to share this morning, so I, of course, I own Coastal Empire News, Savannah Business Journal, and but I also run, also was under contract. I run a very large newspaper company in Indiana, and I've got, a lot of hundreds of employees and a very big responsibility to people's lives. And but so I put together some slides, and but what I wanted to do was share this morning. We can go past this first slide, and let's go past the second slide. Okay, let's just stop here a second. So this is, so what's going on in Savannah is far worse than this. This is up in white northern Indiana, manufacturing, farmers, and look at the unemployment rates, and this is not a tourism market. So imagine what the numbers are in Savannah, and we'll talk about Savannah in a minute. But let's go to the next slide. What I want people to really understand this morning is, is that as we look and we talk about all these things, those of us who are, whether you're running a nonprofit, you're running your own life, you're running a business, or we're advising and consulting people. It's really important that we start to get into the reality of what is really coming in the American newspaper industry. The American economy. And for those of us who did not live through the 2008, 9, 10 crash, meaning you might have been alive, but you might not have been running a business, what is coming at us now is going to be far worse. It already is far worse. And so some of this you're starting to hear on TV, but I'm going to get to a couple slides here to really help people understand what's going to happen to our economy and jobs in Savannah. So I'm sure some of you have seen this on TV, but there is no question that as on July 1, it's projected that 34% of all mortgage payments and renters were deferred, not paid. And so remember that the congressional program that they put in place under the CARES Act said you didn't have to be unemployed. You could just, oh, things are bad, so you don't have to pay your mortgage. You can defer it. 34% of this country did that. Can you imagine what it is in Savannah? Okay. Yeah. However, it is believed that people are not saving this money with the ability to pay it on September 1 when the deferred payment provision ends. So foreclosures and dispossessions will be staggering starting September 1. And then, of course, we all know that the $600 per week that many received has artificially strengthened the U.S. economy. What we're seeing today is not real, because we actually had people who had more take-home money than they even had before. And they've been going to Best Buy and Walmart, and they bought it, whatever. So we're really in a fake economy right now as far as where we're really at. Let's go to the next slide. This is the most sobering slide. And the reason is, so as I shared with the team before we got on the air, my son is a senior partner with McKinsey. McKinsey is the largest consulting firm in the United States, literally consulting for governments, etc. And this is what McKinsey is telling us, that what we've seen so far in layoffs, like in Savannah, is tourism, hotels, restaurants, shops, that kind of thing. But the big layoffs are coming. The big corporations in America, including the giant hotel chains that own the hotels and the manufacturers and the airlines, they're saying that what the larger U.S. companies have been planning their layoffs. They didn't just enact them. A small company just says, I'm closing down, I'm laying off 4 people. But the big guys have been planning. We saw this with the announcement of United Airlines 2 weeks ago, last week, or this past week, American Airlines says 20,000. But all of this is going to come. The second thing that McKinsey's telling us is the hospital systems are in a very bad situation. 20,000? Yeah, the hospital situation, yeah, 20,000 with American. And of course, we have American Airlines at our Savannah. We have United Airlines. All of this, it's just going to impact and ripple. But our hospital systems are in a very bad situation. They have lost all their profit because there's no elective surgery. And the other really important thing, and this really ties to what Deidre was talking about too, and we were just talking about under health. One of the things that's going on is people are deferring health. Right. They're not going to the doctor, either because they're laid off and they're afraid, they don't have any money, or they're afraid of COVID. And so they have a lump, or they have a this, or they have that, and they're not going to the doctor. So we have a lot of deferred health. And that is going to result, we're being told, in maybe 1 million deaths over the next 5 to 10 years that did not need to occur, but because of deferred health. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so let's stay here. Retail sales trends. So when we talk about Savannah coming back, or when will Savannah come back, what we're learning is, and what all the experts are telling us, is that we're never going to go back to shopping and dining the way that we used to. That you can say, oh, people will go back. They will not. They have changed their habits. And what the companies, the American corporations, are telling us is that they knew that bricks and mortar buildings, were going to go away, but they were saying this is going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years, it's happened in 3 to 4 months. And now that people have gotten used to Amazon and shipping their food, right? And cooking again, right? And all these things, they're not going to go back. So when we look at our Savannah economy and at our own lives, our own companies, right? Think and be into reality. Let's go to the next slide. This is the most important slide to me. U.S. productivity impact. So, quote, we have harvested 9 years of productivity gains that were there, but companies didn't have the will to enact that have now taken place in the last 3 to 4 months with more to come. What does that mean? So McKinsey is saying to us, and I see it in this large company I'm running in Indiana. When COVID hit, I took 4 people out of the composition creative department. Had I tried to talk my supervisor into doing that last December, there would have been tears, threatening to quit, the world was going to end, blah, blah, blah. Once they started operating with 3 or 4 less people under PPP, I said, do you want to bring someone back? She goes, no, I'm good. We're getting it all done. That's what we mean. And so what McKinsey is telling us that productivity that companies could have taken, like Zoom conference calls, right? And everybody working from home. This productivity that they were advising these big companies, hospital systems, you can cut 3,000 people, you can cut 10,000 people. Bank of America, you don't need as many branches. United States Post Office, you don't need a post office every mile or two. This productivity is what that's called, productivity, that was there, that they didn't have the will to take. Oh, these employees have been with us so long, I don't want to let them go. We got forced to take it. No one's going to bring it back. And so we have to adapt, and we have to be in truth telling to ourselves. This is the world.
So I don't understand the stock market and how it's so high. I mean, it seems.
Well, it's because they've got, first of all, they got a whole lot of cash. The newspaper, I mean, I didn't need to take
everybody, so they have money.
They got cash. They got cash. I didn't need to take a PPP loan for Coastal Empire News. God bless. Hello, thank you. But I took it in Indiana. And let me tell you, we're sitting on more cash than we normally would have in the bank. It's artificial. But what was really critical, if you can make yourself watch those darn stock shows, morning squawk talk and whatever, the banks have put it together staggering amounts of money against losses. They're telling us the losses are coming 3rd and 4th quarter. So all that foreclosure, all that real estate bubble, all that crash, I hate to be a naysayer, but it's coming, guys. We're not going to go back. And I'm so sorry.
So what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah,
hoarding your cash.
We went digital with Savannah Business Journal. I'm the queen of no overhead. The number one I can say to you in everything in life, no overhead. Used car, no car payment. No overhead in your life. And everything we can do to counsel anyone, from the lowest income person to someone who used to have money and is now going to be in shock at the food bank, right? No overhead. Everybody get down into the reality. Think about the stories from your grandparents and your parents. Live it. My mother's a Macon, Georgia girl in the Depression, honey. I mean, the stories she told, right? What her mother did to stretch a nickel, So anyway, those are my thoughts that I thought I could share this morning. And it's sad, but it's reality. And reality is strength, right? If we tell ourselves the truth, right? Truth telling. That's what, we look at John Lewis and Martin, truth telling. We have to be in truth telling.
Oh, I pulled a picture of John Lewis this morning. Let me pull him on.
I have a friend that works in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they're seeing a lot of those big real estate, there's high rent neighborhoods there, and people are moving out, and the businesses are moving out and canceling their contracts. And it's just, they're realizing that, hey, I don't need all this office space. And the financial district in San Francisco is just really, really starting to feel it.
Yeah, I was talking to Van Johnson, and Alicia Blakely and Keisha Bottoms got into this hoo-ha on the city council a week ago and wasted like an hour of our time. because they didn't understand what co-working space was, 35 Barnard. And so they were questioning whether this company was a Savannah company because they're at 35 Barnard, which of course we were at 5 years. Now we're at 2 East Bryan, co-working, and the novel co-working. They're redoing, most of that building at 2 East Bryan. Co-working.
The nonprofits need to band together and teach the corporate people how to operate on no budget.
Amen,
That's right. That's shoestring.
That's right. You're right. Absolutely. So we just have to be, I'm sorry to be a bummer, but this is real and it's not going away. And now they're talking about 18 months, not a couple of months, and we'll come back.
That's what the 1918 pandemic was. I mean, it was
Exactly.
huge.
Right.
2
And
years.
without a vaccine.
I have
Yeah.
a question for Lou. Seeing that, you are the business guru on here right now. So Healthy Savannah operates in the policy systems and environmental change space, where we want to make sure that we're supportive of health, and those healthy behaviors are easier because there are policies in place, helping people change their mindsets. So what do you think from the business community can be done in order to help put some possibly policies in place to help stabilize the economy and help? I know what we're doing from the aspect of our work, but what can be done? Because like you were saying, we are geared on hospitality, and we know that these are the lowest wealth communities. And so making that decision between paying rent and paying for medicine is a reality for plenty of our primary stakeholders. So what can the business entities do in order to cultivate something different using a PSE approach?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a huge question. And I think, obviously, while the Savannah Business Journal is not political and doesn't endorse candidates, et cetera, I would say vote blue, because I would say to you that if we don't get a federal jobs program, we obviously, the country needs an infrastructure program, but we're going to have to put people to work. And I think we're going to, it's really interesting. We have this huge unemployment in Savannah, and yet there's 106,000 jobs listed right now on the Georgia Department of Labor website. So I think one of the things that we're going to all have to do is help people understand that they're going to have to change their life. They're going to have to change their job, their career, and that's okay. And, and I think also the biggest thing is just operating in lower overhead. I think always the business community can donate its time to nonprofits to try to lift everybody up, to create a better workforce. One of the things I really would love to see is an adult literacy program. Savannah, as far as I'm concerned, is way behind on adult literacy. And the Goodwill is going to launch a program that they're going to start at Sally Mood, I understand, but I really wish it was at the neighborhood level. We, one of the things, Dr. Deidre, is that, we have a lot of people who are just not qualified for work. It isn't about skill set so much. We have a huge adult illiteracy because the public school system has failed multi-generations. And we can talk about it across the South, but let's just talk about Savannah. We have a very large adult literacy problem here. And so I think that the business community can volunteer, can help. It's not just a one-off drive, but it's things like being parts of like adult illiteracy programs in the evenings and helping lift everybody up. It's not just writing checks, but it's really about sharing what I know, and donating your time to help people. Yes, we need to stack shelves at the food shelter and stuff like that, but it's really got to be larger than that. I think. And mentoring. I was a mentor. I've been a mentor, and in college at Purdue, in White, Indiana, I went to Purdue, and let me tell you, I was doing adult literacy with Hispanic migrant workers working on the farms, right? Picking that corn. Up here it's corn and wherever. And of course, so I'm living between Savannah and Indiana, but I actually went to college in Indiana. I, as a college kid, Purdue had us down volunteering, doing adult literacy with Hispanic populations, but also mentoring kids. I think one of the things the business community, again, it's your time. No one's going to have any money, okay? But you have time.
That's right.
Especially
so you can mentor. You know, you can mentor. I mean, we really got to do this, mentoring and adult literacy. I keep, Van is sick of me talking about adult literacy. But
you're right.
I'm not going to give up. I'm not giving up. And
You
it's
have to keep that literacy component in place, because especially when we're thinking about health literacy and people not understanding what it means if your blood sugar was 7 times the average.
You can't read the medical stuff. You can't read the brochure they gave
No,
you.
you can't even read food labels.
You
So
can't even read food labels. You're right. You can't even read this stuff. And so the thing is, and we need our school board, again, a speech, I'll get on my soapbox. We need our school board to let the school buildings be used in the neighborhoods in the evenings. It's not their school buildings, it's our school buildings. We need neighborhood-based programs, whether it's health or literacy or mentoring kids.
Right.
Not, how are people going to get over to Sally Mood Drive? That's like going to Africa.
We can't even get our students. The transportation is the number one. Now you guys are all in my world.
Yeah, let's not do
Transportation is the number one issue in this city.
Right. So we need neighborhood-based programs. We've got neighborhood schools. We have neighborhood community centers. The city controls the community centers, but the educational materials are sitting in the school buildings. And yet, I was chairman of a school board in the Boston suburbs, lily white Boston suburbs. We had adult education at night.
You're right.
That time,
we have programs here that we have some programs here that kind of get their pinky toe in there, but they're not, they're not across the board. They're not at every location.
Lack of access.
Michael Owens had, that whole program is, it's a
university
program, but it's just hitting the surface.
Our buildings are not open. Our buildings are not open. That's the bottom line. It's the school board, bless their hearts. It's like it's their buildings, not our buildings. I just disagree. And it's going to take, it's going to take a mayor like Van. If anybody can negotiate it, because we've got to argue about who's going to insure it at night, who's going to pay the janitor, and who's going to pay part of the electric bill. I get it, okay? And who's going to fix the thing that the program broke at night? I get it. We can argue it to death, but we need to use, we've got all these buildings in our neighborhoods. Perfect. You come home from work, you feed the kids, somebody watches your kids, you go up to the program at 7 o'clock and you work on your literacy. You work on your banking knowledge. You learn how to get a banking account. We talk about, remember that program, Margie, you probably did the PR, where the banks were going to help everybody get a checking account and you were going to go down, and what the heck did they call that sucker? And then they remember, Tommy Hester was all in the middle of it. And then they realized people don't have a bank account and a debit card because they can't read.
With CIS Savannah, one of our community partners is 100 Black Men. Yeah. And 100 Black Men, they're in like 20 some odd schools. It's a mentoring program, and they don't only mentor. It's not only men. There's women there mentoring young girls as well. But one of the things that they, when we were over at Haven Elementary School, and that was the first, this was a couple of years ago, we were at Haven Elementary. We were bringing this program in. We were offering it to students, and we wanted to bring it during the day.
Right.
And there was a lot of pushback for that. And the reason was, we went from having about 65 kids during the day who could participate. The second they said, well, let's do it after school, we went down to 9 because those kids get on those buses and they go home. Right. But one of the pieces of that program, and one of the things that they do, that 100 Black Men does with their mentoring program, is they cover a broad range of things. Right. To include, they'll take the older kids, like the 5th graders, they go to the bank and they open up a bank account. Right. And they teach them about basic basic banking. They teach them about food. They teach them about grocery shopping. They teach them about literacy. Our goal at with CIS Savannah is have every kid reading at grade level by the third grade. Third grade reading here is a big, big issue, just like fifth grade math, the jump from fifth to sixth grade.
Right.
There's a huge need there because kids are making it to sixth grade and they don't know the things they need to know. And so a lot of people will say all the time, well, I don't see any moving of the needle here because we're looking at test scores and you're not going to see what we do, what mentors do, what the educators do for probably about 6, 7, 8 years from now when those kids get older, when you're dealing with
the next generation. But before R.D. Williams died, such a loss of my friend, horrible. We were talking about over in Sustainable Fellwood starting a cooking program. So, going back to health, of getting the moms and the teenage girls in there learning to cook healthy meals, including how to stretch a dollar. Right?
Bring back home ec and all those VOTEC classes that we had in the 80s that went away.
Exactly. And, these are real skills that all contribute to health, using your money. How many people in Savannah eat their meal out of plastic containers, right? I mean, they're eating everything to go. It's high sodium and it's expensive.
So where I'm going to interject there is because we do have plenty of partners that have these cooking class sessions that show you how to cook a healthy meal on a shoestring budget. The issue is helping change the mentality on what healthy food looks like.
Right.
And so it cannot, that healthy food is just not bland. It's not dry. It's, and so that's where a systems change comes into place, and working with mentoring and educating the community on try using rice cauliflower instead of rice. Putting more vegetables into your system and showing them what tools you can use to make it just taste as good. And so I believe that, like you were saying, Lou and Catalina, as a mother of 3 younger children, one who is off on his own, when they get in the house, it is hard to get me back out the door. So what can we do to ensure that, number one, I will say is that childcare is number one. You need to make sure that there's a childcare component there. And you have to incentivize people and say, okay, well, this is a communal meal. But right now with COVID-19, communal meals are not optimal. So I think also Farmers Market has done a good job with shifting that narrative and doing these sessions online. It's just how do we garner more attention to these particular options?
Right.
Well, you get into the area, there's so many layers to this. Then you get in the area, like on the education side, you get into the area of access. So we can do all these things online, but do these folks have access to the internet? We have a program right now. We partnered with AT&T some years ago, and we passed this information forward. AT&T has a program right now that you can find it on the AT&T website. If you meet a certain financial criteria, you can get the internet at your home for $10 a month. And if I can't say that enough, get that out there enough, we've passed it on to the school system and so forth. But just simple access to the internet, most people don't think that's really a big deal because we all have our phones and everything else. But if you are low wealth and you're struggling or unemployed or whatever, I was on food stamps for almost 2 years when my husband lost his job. And we had to make we had one cell phone between multiple people, and we had to make cuts and do things. I never thought in a million years that I was going to stand in line at the grocery store and have to make the decision between buying shampoo or laundry soap and food. And I admit it, my aunt and I mean, you're not supposed to do this, but sometimes my aunt would come and we'd barter groceries because I needed diapers and I only had money for food.
Right, absolutely.
And so people don't understand me. We were the family that did everything right. I had 401ks and savings and a home and 2 jobs and made over 6 figures and retirement and the whole 9 yards.
That's the change we're about to see.
It was like, we never did anything more. We don't do anything more than one of us can do. That's kind of my thing. But everybody is 6 months away from that, and people just don't understand it. I mean, that's how I got back to Savannah. We were in California, and we just couldn't. It was either move back to Savannah or we're going to be living under a bridge somewhere. We lived in our camper for 8 months here in Savannah because we moved here to try and make it. And fortunately, I had my camper, but we lived in our camper for 8 months while we were looking for jobs in our field. I worked as a bartender. My husband, did, and we are like educated people with corporate CEO level jobs. And we did everything we could do, but people just don't understand how, and that is the direction that we're going. This country has no idea.
They don't. We're going to see more multi-generational living, and that's okay. We have to tell people it's okay. Hey, I'm proud of you. You're moving back with your parents. God bless you. I mean, we have to make people feel okay about this, and we can plan. One of the positive things about distance learning with the schools is that the people are accessing the $10 from AT&T. We need to push. Lester Jackson was trying to get the governor to approve a $10 million laptop program to get more computers in the home. It didn't get through. But we have got to do that kind of thing. We have to get the equipment at home. And but staying to Deidre's point, about the child care component, we have to tell people it's okay. Hey, I'm proud of you. You're moving back with your parents. God bless you. Do that kind of thing. We have to do it. And staying to Deidre's point,
whoever's got Facebook running, turn it off.
Hey, Lou, did you hear about all the satellites that SpaceX put up that will supply Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
When is that going to be ready?
I don't know. Georgia's finally, thank God, doing this broadband task force. We're going to study it another couple of years, but we finally convinced ourselves the broadband and the satellite and the connectivity in Georgia is lousy, which it is. But I think there'll be new pressure on connectivity and all those things because of the need for distance learning. I think this is one of the many sea changes that we see people seeing, and the government is recognizing we have got to improve connectivity even in the lowest income homes because it's the only way to communicate with people.
Wow, I just realized we've been on 45 minutes. Around the water cooler. Oh my gosh!
You guys mentioned Goodwill over a while ago. That's where our offices used to be, and as you walk in, they have a thing on the wall, and it says something to the effect of, we're not giving a hand out, we're giving a hand up. And I think that's one of the biggest things people in Savannah can do, and people can do across the board in this country is it's not a handout, it's a hand up, and everybody needs a hand up at one point or so in their life. So
absolutely.
Before we wrap up, let's go over a couple of our community headlines that I want to bring up real fast. We always really quickly talk about rescue. This little gal, her name, no, it's a male, is Zinder, Zinger, Zinder. I'm just going to call him Ginger. I think it should be Ginger. But anyhow, Ginger's at Coastal Pet Rescue, and he's just like 10 weeks old, and he needs a forever home.
Very cute.
There's so many
Zinger.
There. Huh?
Zinger.
Oh, is it Zinger? Okay.
Zinger.
Okay, that's cute too.
But I think ginger is good because he's ginger colored.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a little ginger. Oh.
Yeah. Also, I want to mention today at noon, it's still not too late to sign up. I'm going to be talking, and Lou, thank you for running this, about 3 ways to increase your word of mouth in the community.
Creative Coast, your webinar today.
Yep, you can still sign up. It's free. Just go to Creative Coast and under calendar of events. I also want to mention that Wednesday, the SBDC is having an e-commerce free webinar. It's good for business. Mm-hmm. And Catalina, tell us what that is.
Yes, my husband, he had a little little shindig this weekend, and he's a member of the Knights of Columbus here in Savannah, and he was awarded Knight of the Year for his work in the community and community service. So yay to Randy.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yay.
Good news, good news, great news.
One other thing, I just found out that my books has been approved. That's what it looks like. Yay.
Oh, wow.
That's
I love the cover.
To Elaine Longwater and Anastasia at Longwater and Company for doing the book. So it should be out soon. So it feels like labor. I feel like I've been in labor for like 3 years.
Oh God, I know.
Finally.
I God bless you for finishing a book. I've been writing Life as an Exit Strategy for 1,000,000 years. I don't know that I'll ever live to see it done.
Lou, I had to hire Outskirts
Get it
Publishing.
done when you exit.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, my premise is that the moment you start a business, you run it to sell, to get out. Life is an exit strategy. We plan our funeral. We know where we're going to be buried. We have a will. But when you start a business, you don't think about exiting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about running, you know, your books, how you keep your financials. They have to be an industry standard for your industry and all these things. Life is an exit strategy. And too few people understand that they start a business and it's a sweat equity business and it's really not worth anything without them. You know, so that's what my book's about. Life's an exit strategy. But I don't know if I'll ever finish it, Margie. So God bless.
Oh,
Lou.
I'm telling you, it's taken me years, and I had to hire Outskirt Publishing to do the back end stuff for me and hold me accountable. But I actually published it under Carriage Trade Publishing too, which is my real name of my company, and I do business as Carriage Trade Public Relations. But that was the name of my parents' company, Carriage Trade Publishing, because they published magazines up in the Washington D.C. area. So
Right.
and I dedicated it to my mom and my dad. So
God bless. Because it's hard, man. It's so hard.
You know, Amy Condon just wrote a book that's like, it's like huge. How did she do that? How does anybody do it? Mine's only 100 pages. It's a guidebook.
Yeah, no, it's hard. It's hard, man. I
Yeah,
keep changing the, you know, the chapters and the, you know, it's just a nightmare.
yeah, yeah.
So Lou, do you know, like one of the big community headlines today is we had some breaking news, 4 o'clock this morning or whatever time it was, talking about the governor of New York coming down here. Do you have an inside scoop on that?
I do. Yeah, I got called last night by, you know, the mayor at about 10 o'clock at night to tell me that this was coming, but not to say anything. But it actually it started to speak out because somebody noticed on the governor is post his schedule for the next.
And we're talking about Governor Cuomo, not Governor Kemp.
One of the most prominent governors of one of the largest states in the United States is coming to Savannah today. And the reason he's coming is because he saw Van on the Today Show last Friday morning. And he called up Van and he said, how can I help? And the Governor Cuomo is coming and he's going to help share with Van and our city officials and our city health officials how New York got their COVID down under control, which they've done a remarkable job. And he is also bringing a huge amount of PPP that they had gathered and that they have excess. And he's going to give it to Savannah, is my understanding, so that the city can give it out. We don't have any detail yet on the quantities, but basically, you know, Van last Thursday night, the reason the Today Show put him on was he in a moment of anger, he posted, "Governor Kemp doesn't give a damn about us." And what he later said, his mother wouldn't have been thrilled with him for saying that. But his point was that, you know, we have 15 million tourists. We're sitting on I-95. We have all these infected people coming up from Florida through our market. We have special issues, which the governor does not seem to be grasping. So here's one of the most prominent governors in the United States is coming today about 2 o'clock. The media will be with him. Our editor will be there. And All the media will be there. We'll all be beating it to death at 5 and 6 o'clock. And so the purpose is to share what they learned in New York with our hospitals and our health people and our political people. And he's just also coming just to be supportive of Van taking this strong stand to protect the residents and the businesses. So it's just remarkable. Remarkable. It's huge. It's obviously an embarrassment probably to our governor, but we'll let the media play that out. I'm not going to comment, but it's pretty big.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Yeah.
Because I think Representative Lewis would be smiling down on this one right now. He would be very ecstatic that although we had to go over 1,000 miles away to get some assistance.
Right.
This is what it's about. This is what his legacy was about, working together for the common good of all people. So
absolutely.
Good point.
Now, I'm sure, to be a news person, let me say that I'm not going to say that I don't think that Governor Cuomo is probably running for president in 4 years. And I'm not going to say to you probably
Van running for governor in a few years.
Georgia's a purple state and they're trying to flip it. And I'm not going to say that there's probably not some politics in here. However, to have our Italian white governor of New York come down here, help us in Savannah. They're a big tourist market. They understand what it's like because Savannah is different. We're different than Vidalia. We just have a different situation here. And from the day Van made the decision to pull that St. Patrick's Day parade, and to try to stop some of the influx, protect us. It's been a hard gig, and we'll see whether the governor is successful in court suing the mayor of Atlanta.
Oh my goodness. With that, it's almost been an hour. So we definitely need to get to work this Monday morning. So Lou Phelps, thank you so much for being on and sharing all your information with our audience. And Dr. Grimm, thank you so much for updating everybody about the REACH project. This has been a wonderful water cooler. I miss sitting around the coffee table and talking with
me riled up in the morning. I love it.
Remember, SavannahBusinessJournal.com. It's only $2 a month to support great journalism, and we publish more stories a day probably than anybody in town. So, without naming names. So, we appreciate your readership support and get free daily breaking news. Doesn't cost anything. Free daily breaking news. SavannahBusinessJournal.com. Sign up for it.
Awesome. And if anyone wants to learn more about REACH and what we do, you can find us at healthysavannah.org/REACH, as well as the YMCA of coastalga.org/. So
I'm going to call you, Deidre. Anyway, we need to do a story on all the things. I tried to take quick notes, but I'll call you. Okay?
Carmel, send that press release to Lou about the. We've got a lot of that stats. So.
Okay, great. Yeah. Remember, send everything not to me, to editor at SavannahBusinessJournal.com. It goes to Kayla.
That's where it goes.
Yeah.
That's where it goes.
It gets lost in the email. Okay. Bye.
All right. We will signing out. See y'all next Monday, 9:00 a.m. Bye, guys.
Bye.